Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Thursday, April 4th. I am joined by my friend and colleague, Josh Molina, man of many hats, political reporter for Newshawk, journalism instructor, and podcaster of the popular Santa Barbara Talks podcast. We're awaiting momentarily. Callie Fausey is going to join us to talk about some education stories, but let's get started. Josh, you had a piece this morning about this ongoing mystery involving the apparent suspension of the director of the main library and her top assistant. Nobody seemed to know what that was about. You dug into it a little bit, got some background information. It sounds like this debacle over the construction project is sort of at the heart of it. Can't hear you, Josh. Are you muted?
What about now? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. There we go.
Okay. It's kind of a chaotic situation at the library because we've had this now near 2-year construction project to basically rehab and restore the library plaza. And there was this grand vision to make it sort of this central art, people-focused space. And everyone was really excited. It was a $9.3 million project. Simultaneous with that, it was, the libraries, there's a lot of public libraries, they had become sort of hangouts for unhoused individuals. So it was sort of this effort to take this space that is not used by a whole lot of people and turn it into something vibrant. Well, this project has taken longer than originally envisioned. It's cost more than they had expected. And they've run into some construction problems along the way. And this whole thing has really made the situation for the employees at the library very difficult for them to work. We're talking about they're replacing the elevator right in the middle of the building. And in doing so, they exposed employees to, I guess it's asbestos fibers. And in that drilling, that's very disturbing. You hear the word asbestos, it's scary. The city tested and they took remediation efforts after, and they determined that it didn't rise. The exposure didn't rise to the level that would be harmful to humans. However, it's kind of hard to hear that if you work there, right? And people were complaining about sore throats and itchy throats, and they felt itchy, watery eyes. And so there was some sort of impact there. You've had flooding in the lower levels in the offices because of the big rain events, and just a lot of problems with this project. So all of this is going on, and then abruptly, the two top directors, Jessica Cadiente, who's the library director, and then you have the library services manager, Molly Weta, are put on paid leave of absence. And it's very abrupt. It happens on March 11th. And from one day to the next, they're gone. And so there's no real explanation from the city as to why this is happening, because they are saying it's a personnel issue, which obviously it is. You put people on leave of absence, they have a right to not have all those details out before there's an investigation. But whatever it is, the city hired an outside firm to conduct an investigation into what happened here. Now, my reporting, talking to my sources, multiple sources who talked to me on the condition of
Hi,
anonymity
Callie.
Kelly, are saying that Jessica was definitely a thorn in the side of administration, that she had often expressed herself and her discomfort about the project and the delays and public works and why was all of this happening. And that all of this situation is kind of all tied together. What specifically led to the uh, leave of absence, right? people aren't talking about it.
Well,
Is it correctly rated?
she's been unhappy about the project. She hadn't made any secret of that.
Yeah, she's been very vocal, and she does have a reputation for being a very fierce defender of the library in terms of turning it into a modern, contemporary mobile events, community events, talks, as well as uh, removing the Santa Barbara Library from the Black Gold system, where they had this partnership with other libraries to exchange books. So she's been a real strong owner of the library, and there's been some clashes. So some people, including the former city administration, saying, hey, we're a library. We need to focus on the physical space here. We don't need to be everything to everybody. And a lot of the progressive libraries, like, you want to go out into the community.
Well, they tried to cut the funding, right?
Yeah, so every year, it's always a battle over library funding in the budget. And so there was reduced services. They advocated, Jessica and her team, she advocated for increased funding to open 7 days a week, to increased hours. That happened. They agreed to do that. So you know how this is, Jerry. Whenever budget managers and city leaders are upstaged in a public meeting and, oh, you think you know better how to run our budget, they get upset. They get mad because they feel like, hey, we're running the city. We know how this is done. So it's unclear as to whether it's just that or whether something else happened and there was a complaint filed over that. And they sort of use that as this impetus to kind of say, we don't like what's happening with your other complaints going on. It is unclear, but we do know it's a serious matter, and probably it's going to be difficult to see either one of them come back. They've already promoted a new person to be the acting
Wow.
library director. And my sources are it's like a very confusing situation. Molly Weta has a good reputation in the building. From what they had said, Jessica's got staunch defenders. There's other people who say she's too aggressive. So it's a really difficult situation. But the big thing in terms of transparency, once again, the city's just like, you can't know anything.
Yeah, the
Meanwhile,
city attorney's gone, the budget director's gone. I like these people just disappear. It's kind of
yeah, I mean, that happened with Ario Kalan. Remember, the city attorney?
yeah.
He's just gone, and it takes reporters to dig, 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 and try to get some info. And I guess they kind of just, I know it's personnel, and I get that, but that doesn't mean you can't say anything at all. It means there's certain things you can't say. So yeah, it's a transparency issue as well.
All right. And we welcome in Callie Fausey from The Independent. Speaking of things we're not allowed to know about, Callie, you had a scoop this week about UCSB now being investigated by the Department of Education, I guess, for Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. What is it called? Shared ancestry. Is this involved with the anti-Semitic protests at the Multicultural Center, or is that what it goes back to, you think?
I think so. So the U.S. Department of Education hasn't, released the complaint yet, so we don't know the official cause, or they haven't as of Tuesday. But
No, I checked this morning. They haven't posted it yet either.
They haven't posted it. Okay, yeah. So, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it is linked to the anti-Zionist or anti-Semitic signs that were posted around the multicultural.
No, I hope this is not me again freezing up.
Yeah, that froze for me. Did I? did
we lost a couple words, but you said, yeah, the Multicultural Center. So just refresh us on what happened there.
Yeah, so in February, some students posted signs around the Multicultural Center, like all throughout the building, saying, Zionists not welcome, and stay away from our kitchen too, which was referencing a Shabbat meal that Jewish students were going to cook in the kitchen later. They specifically targeted Tessa Wexler, who is the student government president, who was like openly pro-Israel. She's the daughter of Soviet Jewish refugees. And some of those said, Tessa Wexler supports genocide, or you can run but you can't hide, Tessa Wexler. Like very, very targeting messages that, yeah, would make anyone scared, I think.
Yeah. And there's a long list of on the department website of universities being looked at for this, and the vast majority of them have been since October 7th and involved with things like this. I think UCLA and Berkeley and UC Davis also have had protests, with a heavy anti-Semitic overlay to them.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? I mean, does the university lose funding? Does it get fined? Do they make Henry Yang retire after 150 years? What well,
um,
what's the sanction, I guess is what I'm asking.
what I know is that the investigators are going to look at whether the university should have done more in response to these signs. And if they rule maybe that they should have, they can pressure the university into providing more resources for Jewish students, or students who were targeted, or risk losing federal funding.
Yeah. Yeah, when I worked at UCSB, I worked in student affairs, which is where the multicultural center lands bureaucratically. And I've talked to a friend out there, and they say this is all anybody talks about in the meetings. I mean, it's just an ongoing thing, and it's really grinding. And it's the recent events in Gaza are not gonna cool us down anytime soon, I'm afraid. All right, you both reported on the removal or the planned removal, I guess, of what, 4950 trees from De La Guerra Plaza. I thought we were Tree City, USA, the urban forest. Callie, why are they? What's going on? Why are we losing all these trees?
um, these are my favorite stories to write, by the way. The De La Guerra revitalization project requires the removal of these trees because they're going to be raising the pavement up, so it's all pedestrian only access, no driveway, no like 5 parking spots along the curve. And they're going to add like water features and all of this. They have a lot of big plans for the plaza, which include the removal of those 49 trees. But they say they're going to plant, I think it was 45 more in their place. And not all the trees are just being removed. Some of them are being protected. Some of them are staying there, like the big pepperwood tree next to City Hall. And some of them are being relocated. So some of them aren't dying, they're just moving.
Hey, Josh, I must have missed a meeting or something because has this all been settled? What's happening with De La Guerra Plaza now, and they're just trying to slip this through? I mean, what's the status of the overall project?
I'm impressed with Callie because somehow she covered a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, and that's like not top tier of the government meetings, and they were sneaking it in there. Like, I don't understand why they were doing that. It was I think I counted, I think I may have said 37 minutes, probably less than that, because I went and watched the meeting after I read her story. And I mean, they just basically are saying, we have this other De La Guerra revitalization project,
which has been going on longer than the library project, much longer than
yes, it still needs approvals. It still needs to go through HLC a few times. It still needs to get permitting and environmental review and then go through the city council. But by the way, here's our plan for the trees. And so it felt a little bit of cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And so and the way Brad Hess, who I really like him, he's really helpful as a source with the police station. But the way he gave his presentation was very much like a very tiptoeing. I know this is a lot of trees, but we're going to explain to you why we want to do it. I mean, essentially, they want to flatten the area. They want to make it
and take out all the grass.
curbless, take out all the grass, and it becomes an area like a Civic Plaza. There's talking about a splash pad or bubble pad or water feature, whatever marketing term they're giving it. It's not too high. And they want to remove most of those trees. The other thing is they want to make sort of the entrance to De La Guerra Plaza on the Anacapa side the focal point. Because right now it's not the focal point. It's like the back way in, and they want to make it. And so there's a lot of trees there. It's not just the green part of the plaza, and they are going to replace them. But what is interesting to me, and a story that I'm trying to work on, is an overall city change and focus of palm trees. And it's very clear that palm trees are problems when it comes to maintenance and cleanup, and they drop fronds. They don't provide shade. They look great. They're not native to this area. I mean, we kill every ice plant in the world out here because it's invasive and not.
The rats like them though.
Yeah, but they look good. They're good ground cover and they're nice. But the palm trees is also not native. And so there's some conversation about, let's, as we develop, remove those and replace with more shade canopy trees. And I think we're going to see that little argument or that conversation play out here as well. De La Guerra Plaza is a long way from being settled.
Yeah, one of the interesting questions I had for those who've watched the great documentary Citizen Macaw, Josh, our former colleague Anna Davison got in trouble over a story where they were removing a couple of trees on State Street from our former employer. Has anyone heard from the owner of 715 Anacapa LLC building?
I believe they're MIA in this. They were even MIA in this discussion when the building was not in bankruptcy, or when the business was not in bankruptcy. So yeah, I think this is probably lower on the list of concerns for that.
All right. And the other thing that was interesting to me, this is being paid for with Measure C funds. I don't recall that being in the description of Measure C when we passed that sales tax increase. Was this something that was specifically earmarked, or they're just bringing it in just because?
I don't know, Callie, if you want to comment at all, but I did find it really weird that they're using Measure C money, and the nexus they're trying to make is that originally, this was part of the police station discussion because they were thinking of moving the farmers market there. And so now they're going to pay for this eventually using whatever bond money they're going to issue to pay for the police station, as well as Measure C, which, yeah, I mean, Measure C is a general tax, even though they didn't say it that way. They said our goal would be streets and infrastructure.
Bring back Frank Hotchkiss. He was the only honest man in government about that. And Randy Rouse, to this day, regrets that he went out and did that because it was a sham. All right, Callie, you had a very sad story about the school board, the Unified School District. Some of the classified employees who have received pink slips, and there's a lot of them, who were testifying about, how difficult this is. I was sort of struck by John Becchio, who's the HR guy, used to be the principal of Santa Barbara High, saying, "Hey, it happens all the time. Don't worry about a thing." What's the status of that? Do we know how many of these people are actually going to lose their jobs?
So we'll find out exactly how many in May. That's when the final notices go out. Right now, it's just precautionary. Not everyone who's getting a pink slip is going to be laid off. Some people are going to be bumped down to a lower position. So it's a really complicated picture right now. So we don't really know exactly what it's going to look like once, the dust settles.
Well, Becchio's point was this happens every year to a certain extent, because if you're not sure of your budget, then you have to do this. But there's a lot more this year. Why? Because of COVID funds that we've now lost or something?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really tough for the employees because, it's been 3 or 4 years since pink slips were last given out. So a lot of the employees that are new hires aren't used to getting one every year, like what Becky said. And yeah, so there were a lot of COVID hires with one-time funds that they now need to figure out, like, oh, how are we going to pay for this? Like all of the they hired a lot of extra teachers to keep class sizes small, but then they put smaller class sizes in the contract language with the Santa Barbara Teachers Association. So they're not going to be laying off any of those teachers that were hired with one-time funds. They're going to have to pay for it from the like general budget.
Yeah. And yeah, as you point out, this all takes place with the backdrop of the negotiations, which have not been pleasant back and forth. Where does that all stand? I keep getting these emails from the district saying, which makes it sound like they've reached some grand settlement, but it's all like, oh, you get 10 minutes for coffee or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like smaller issues that they seem to be, and which I guess they have to do, but still the money thing is still out there.
Yeah, the money thing is the big elephant still on the table. So yeah, they're gonna have to. I think they're meeting with SBTA next week is the next mediation session between them.
And then I should know this, but I don't. But it basically nobody understands school finance, but from the state budget perspective, there's two kinds of schools: community funded and basic aid, and we are the former community funded, which means it's paid primarily through the property tax. So we don't get paid by the state for each student. But they keep saying, oh, well, the state has a big deficit. How does that affect us if we're community funded?
That was a big question that I had too. Because they're saying declining enrollment is impacting this too, and that would be a bigger deal if we were state funded, if we were basic aid. But their reasoning was that some of the programs in Santa Barbara Unified, like special education, are actually funded from state funds. So yeah,
so it's
we have like although the majority is community funded, we have like this little section that is state funded, and I think they're trying to really highlight that. It's like, oh, don't look at this. Look at this. We have this much money.
And then Becky also points out they've already approved $42 million of more raises in the negotiations, which have not even ended yet. They haven't even got to the big ticket stuff. So, okay, big mess. All right.
I know, yeah.
Josh, I blame you for Hilda Maldonado. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad we can you can finally join my side, Jerry.
Yeah, okay. And then real quick, sort of a related issue. You had this story, Callie, about UCSB study about teen mental health. What is it called? Social well-being. And it was interesting because the study, I guess by coincidence, started in October of 2019, right before the pandemic. So they were able to get a before and after, and it's not good. Things are not good.
Things are not good. And I think it says a lot for a research, like a scientific study to come out saying that teens are disengaged and angsty. Like, that it's pretty bad if
and significantly more than they used to be. I mean, they always are, but yeah. What's the recommendation?
Yeah, significantly more.
Are there recommendations to address this?
Basically, they want schools to kind of include more like community service opportunities for teens to kind of try to get them more engaged with their community, engaged with society, because that was the big thing about it. Was the researchers are worried about civic disengagement. These teens seem to not want to, or they don't view society as a good place, and they don't care as much about their role in society. And so, yeah, they're recommending that schools include more of those community service opportunities to get those teens, civically engaged.
Yeah. Well, when the history of this period is written, the COVID will be a big deal, but it's really about the iPhone. That's when we really started to be in a human extinction event. You heard it here first. All right. Hey, Josh.
All
There
right,
you
were you saying something, Jerry?
Oh,
What?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt your multitasking there. Hey, here's a great story. Those folks on who live below the Hot Springs Trail, who've been at war with the county for a couple years because the county wants them to remove all the boulders and so on in front of their house for parking for people from LA who found out about it on Instagram to come up. Suddenly, like what, 10 days after Roy Lee defeats Doss Williams, the outgoing public works director, Scott McAlpin, who's like he does the wet work for Doss, decides that these people have 10 days to get everything removed. What is that? Am I reading too much into that, Josh?
Yeah, I don't know if Scott knows that he has that reputation of being Doss's lapdog, and I know that's derogatory, but he really does because so many people told me that, that it's going to hopefully be a kind of a big change. Not that he's not well respected, does great work, but on that specific thing, kind of a mouthpiece for the supervisor. So yeah, this issue's been a huge issue, and it's been very contentious. There's 8 parking spaces to get to the Hot Springs Trail. And so the trail is very popular. So where do people park? In Montecito, there's no parking, right? There's not even any sidewalks in this area. So people park on the side of the road. And so because during COVID, more people started going, it became an exacerbated problem. And so some homeowners have put landscaping, boulders, obstructions in front of their property on the public right of way to keep people from parking there and walking to the trail. And so the county issued these notices, and then the homeowners, some of which are very prominent and high profile, hired Barry Capello's firm and basically said, no, you can't do this, filed a complaint. It went to court. They won. They said, hey, county, you have to do an EIR. You can't just go in there and start removing stuff and creating a parking program and without studying the environmental impacts. The county said, we're not doing a parking thing. Scott McAlpin threw out a number of up to 62 spaces at one time, of which he totally backpedals from now and says, it was just a number. It was a total. It was not real. And so that goes to court. Tom Anderley sides with the homeowners, but then the county appeals it, goes to the appeals court. They side with the county. So all of that happened last summer. And then for whatever reason, they actually decided to notice these homeowners. This is right after the election, saying, you have 10 days to remove your stuff now. And I know the thinking was, well, Doss Williams lost, so therefore.
And this was an issue in the campaign. I mean,
Doss was very much against these homeowners, very much a defender of the county, and his attitude was the trails should be for everybody, not just these homeowners who want to protect themselves by
not just the people who live here and pay my salary. Yes, okay.
In the public right away. So anyway, I don't think he earned any fans with that, obviously. So they put out these issues, and so these notices. They had 10 days. Nothing has been removed. The county's trying to work with these homeowners to.
Well, we should point out that the new public works director, Chris Sneddon, who, in full disclosure, married to the city council member and future mayor, possibly, Kristen Sneddon, seems to be taking a more, I don't know, moderate tone about these things. I mean, his comment in your story was that we want to work with these people and make it all. Am I reading?
He's not like going out there saying the righteous thing to do here is to remove these obstructions.
That's the morally superior thing to do here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Sneddon seems to be wanting to work with them and come up with something that's resolvable to all parties. That being said, I did reach out to the attorney, Dave Cousineau, with Barry Capello's firm, Capello and Noel, I should say. And he didn't, he offered a no comment. So maybe there's something
Yeah,
brewing.
I mean, they still could appeal to the Supreme Court if they
Yeah.
wanted to, and that would slow it down at least for a long time, based on my experience. All right. Callie, you got to take a field trip last week. You were on the boat when they went and dropped these giant hunks of cement into the channel, into the bay. What was that all about? The sea caves. That was interesting. You sound like you had fun on that trip.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. It was a beautiful day too, so it was really nice to go out on the water. It'd been a while since I had been on a boat. I was really scared that I was going to get seasick, but I didn't. So that was good.
You even took some photographs while you were out
Yeah, so basically this is the like um inception of the fish reef project's like long held dream to drop these sea caves into Goleta Bay to try to help restore the depleted kelp forest there and create fish habitat. Yeah, started by the nonprofit was started by like a group of fishermen, and it has been kind of expanded to like across the world. So like Baja, Mexico, Papua New Guinea, they're trying to do stuff in Africa, but it took them a really long time to get the permits for Goleta Bay, and they finally got everything.
Yeah, you said he showed you the stack of permits. What was that?
He showed me the folder. It was humongous. Like the amount of red tape that they had to get through was insane. Like I would have been discouraged just learning how many permits I had to get.
And remind me why we care about kelp.
So kelp is kind of debatably good for carbon sequestration, so taking carbon dioxide out of the water. But it's mainly these caves are designed to create habitat for fish. So it's mainly for attracting and providing habitat for fish. You know, we used to have it all the way down from like, I think it was like El Capitan to Recon Point.
The kelp forest, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're putting in anything that wasn't once there before.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a fun story. Everybody should go read Callie's account of. See, that's the great thing about being a reporter. You get to do stuff like that. Or
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
you never know what it is you're going to get to do, and you get to meet people you
mm-hmm.
wouldn't otherwise get to meet. It's just for nosy people, it's just the greatest profession ever.
And it's, you know, it's worth like, you know, the $80,000 a year we don't make that PR people do too. It's worth it. We sleep well at night because of these experiences.
You heard it here first. All right, last story. Josh, speaking of scoops, I had no idea we had a massive storage shortage in Santa Barbara that Brian Kernell is going to fix with some 60-foot cement wall or something. What's this project about?
This is a big deal. This is a 5-story housing project downtown. I think this building was most recently occupied by Frontier. It's the old General Telephone electric
so it's
building.
on Cannon Perdido and State?
Well, it's like a whole block. It's on De La Guerra and Cannon Perdido. And so they want to build housing there on a parking lot. And it's going to be like 5 stories, 40 units, very small studios. And then they're going to also build 4 stories of storage because, as Brian Cornell said, which I guess kind of makes sense, but I imagine it's also a good thing to take into a meeting to explain why they want to build storage, is that with all these ADUs, accessory dwelling units, that people are building in their homes, that there's not a lot of place for their stuff. So we have a shortage of storage, and this is going to help fulfill that. I mean, I can see that for those of us who hoard things or don't like to throw things, or shall I say, have a garage full of old newspaper clippings like me. You know, you run out of space. So this is kind of a significant deal. And they're building it behind the housing units. They can't really do anything to that old historic telephone building, but they are going to try to restore it, but they can't like knock it down or anything like that. So this is more housing downtown, and this is going to be more storage as well. And I it's going to be tough for sure.
I mean, a couple things. One, I'm going to take a wild guess, Josh, that we're not going to be able to afford to store our old newspapers there. I have a feeling that all these guys in Montecito with the classic cars and the expensive cars and so on are going to be at the top of the list for that. But so is this wall going to be visible from the street or not?
Yeah, it is. And there's some architectural thing that Cornell is doing to make it very green, both literally green and environmentally green to basically make it look a little bit better on that side, on the De La Guerra side. So it is significant. It went to ABR, Architectural Board of Review, for a conceptual review. So this is the one where they take it and ABR says, big, broad brushstroke, like this, hate this. So it will come back with revisions. But now's the time to build a housing project. You're probably going to get it approved.
Yeah. And we should note for the record that two of the units are going to be for, or I go at six altogether, going to be affordable, or yeah, that's going to put a huge dent in our affordable housing shortage. I think. I mean, yeah, the whole thing is just it's ridiculous because it's all we're doing is building more market rate housing that's going to drive more people out. And anyway, I don't complain because Megan Harmon, your hero, noted, and in whose district this is happening, that this is part of our priority housing overlay, which is a bureaucratese phrase I've not heard before. So, okay.
We need to be nice to Council Member Harmon right now. You know, she's about to deliver a baby, so I think
All
go
right.
easy.
Well, I'm always nice to her. I just take exception to some of her rhetoric. All right. We got to get out of here. Callie, what are you working on now? You got any more boat trips planned or what's up?
No, I wish. Um sorry, I'm in the office. Yeah, I have a few things planned. I'm trying to get trying to plan space for the ketamine story right now. So I've been
We're waiting on that.
tweaking that. I know. But yeah, that's like the first thing that comes to mind right now.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to that one. Josh, who's on the podcast?
Oh, I got a good one, Jerry. Jet Black Mertz, who is running for Santa Barbara
She's
City
running
Council
against Alejandra, huh?
in District 1, and she's coming on. And she, obviously, I would never make an endorsement, of course, but she's a very formidable, strong candidate. Wendy Santa Maria, I've heard, is also interested in running. She works for Cause, and she's also a very formidable, qualified candidate. So it's going to be a very amazing, interesting contest in District 1 in a seat that, we talk about District.
Won by 9 votes or something last time.
Yeah, she's been working hard lately, and we'll see if she can continue to do that the rest of this election year.
All right. And remind me who else is up this year? Alejandra's up, Mike Jordan's up.
Jordan's seat is up, and Oscar Gutierrez's seat is up, and they may have some challengers, but I think District 1 is going to be the marquee sort of thing to watch.
All right, Josh Molina, Callie Fausey, thank you very much for talking about your reporting and bringing us all up to date on the top local news stories. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on Newsmakers. Thanks.